All right. So first I'll present a little bit about myself, just kind of introduce myself to everyone here. So my name is, technically my name is Rosemary. I'm also affectionately known as Rosie. Um, in Go Global, I started a character known as Rockabilly Rosie. So if you've ever been on the Go Global site or Facebook and you've seen this crazy character with blue and yellow flowers in her hair. This is the character that I created when the war started. I had started with Go Global in 2019. I now have a 13-year-old daughter. She just turned 13. We live in Georgetown, Texas. I've been teaching English in both the US and Ukraine for over 10 years. I've taught science, religion, reading, level of literacy intervention to be more precise in both middle school and junior high. And I actually published an ebook, which was based off of all the activities that I started creating when the war started in Ukraine back in September. It's called Mental Maintenance. I'm very lucky to be living a very full life. I love traveling and hiking, spending time at the ocean. And as you can see, I never miss a chance to let Ukraine know how much I love her and everyone that I see. And so, one of my personal dreams is to be able to go to Ukraine and see her beautiful steppes, mountains, and the Black Sea. And of course, all the students that I've worked with at Go Camp and outside of Go Camp. I do have a few hobbies. I'm a ballroom dancer and I like learning languages. Right now, I'm learning Ukrainian and Scots Gaelic and hiking. And when it comes to my personal values, honesty and integrity, service to family and community, and personal growth and learning are my top values that I have. Like I said, I have two very big dreams. One is to go to Ukraine after the victory and reunite with all my friends and students I've made through Go Global and Go Camp and to help rebuild the school systems and continue to teach, and also see the Highlands of Scotland one day. And a fun fact about me, I love arcades. So yes, I'm very serious about my work in mindset building and English education, but I also have a fun side, and that is playing arcade games. So that is definitely the way to my heart. So, but for the purposes of today, we are going to be learning about teaching English for specific purposes. So when we teach English, especially as volunteers, we kind of get ourselves into a little rut. And we definitely burn out on teaching about my culture, teaching about what do you like to do, where do you like to travel and stuff. And so as volunteers, we kind of risk getting bored um, with our work because sometimes it's hard to like branch out and figure out like what else can I teach. So we're going to talk about teaching English for specific purposes. And that's basically what the name implies. This is not vocabulary that's general, okay? So we're not talking about travel or family or cooking or culture or anything like that because that's general vocabulary building. This is very specific um vocabulary we're talking about. So like engineering, vocabulary you're only going to use for the engineering sciences or STEM or botany or something like that. So on our agenda today, we're going to talk about the importance of teaching English for specific purposes, and then we're going to go into the obstacles that second language learners face and how to help overcome these. Then we're going to talk about strategies to introduce new vocabulary and topics in ESP to teach. And then after that, we're going to do a little summary and we're going to do a couple of activities too, so that you have something that you can kind of take away from all of this. We're going to use one of the lessons that I just got done teaching over in Kremenchuk, and we talked about the space program. So when talking about NASA, we're going to use very specific vocabulary like crewed flight, test flight, the acronym MAKO, which means main engine cutoff. You don't use that type of vocabulary when talking about general topics of life or anything. It's only specific to space. So you're going to see a real life lesson that was taught with that. So, like I said, what is teaching English for specific purposes? It's targeted English vocabulary for specific vocations or areas of study. This is going to be for your intermediate to advanced level English learners and speakers. So this is once again not your everyday English vocabulary. You're not going to teach this to A1, A2 English learners. I do not recommend it. They're still trying to get a command of the language. They're still fighting muscle memory and trying to just get a grasp of the language. However, the subset of English vocabulary, it is more appropriate for your B1, B2, C1, C2 level English speakers. It's a good challenge for your intermediate level. And then, of course, for your advanced English speakers, this is necessary vocabulary. Generally, this is job specific or subject specific vocabulary. It is a higher level of difficulty, and you do need a stronger command of English and the grammar for both the teacher and the students. So why is this important to teach? Ukrainian students, and this is what I've been seeing since I started back in 2019 doing Go Global. Ukrainian students are very aware that they live in a world where one language, it's not enough to compete in the job market. They've also been figuring out and have learned that English is a gateway language to success in the job market. It's a bridge language. So without English, it's kind of hard. You know, that's the language that we use. If let's say I go to the Netherlands and I don't speak Dutch or German, then or French, you know, English is the next language that we have at our disposal. It's kind of like in Eastern Europe, where Russian is sort of like that language in common the region has. So if you don't speak Hungarian, maybe you have Russian in common. So it's the same principle. Um, Other reasons that that this is good is a job preparedness. When they come over to the United States, England, France, wherever where English is needed, they need to have that vocabulary. I've met a lot of Ukrainian refugees who are coming over here, and they need specific vocabulary for marketing. I have a lot of IT engineers, software engineers, and they need that vocabulary in order to just do their jobs where they are employed. Students also, they want to be successful for university. If they want to go over to the UK, United States, anywhere English is spoken, they have to take the English exam. They can't do that without having English for specific purposes. Otherwise, they won't pass the test or they won't do well on it. They want to be ready in their preferred field of employment. Other reasons, it's solid proficiency in using the English language. It's going to force them to really work the language instead of just learning how to do small talk. Confidence in using English increases, better score on the IELTS exams. It increases students' likelihood to enter universities where English is the primary language of instruction. And it gives a contextual understanding of how we use English. And this is so, so crucial because a lot of the way English works is a lot of it is based on context, especially if you're reading, you know, if you don't know the difference between um like your homonyms, you know, it completely changes the meaning of it. So this actually provides better context for them to use their language, and it gives more structure to it. So we need to talk about obstacles second language learners face, and it's not what you think. It's not about, yes, there is the memorizing vocabulary and using vocabulary, but there's some things that we don't really think about when we are talking about obstacles. And these are some things that even I have figured out when I'm learning Ukrainian and Scots Gaelic, which are on two different spectrums of the language families. And I watch people whose second, third, fourth language is English, and I see the struggles that they have. So the first one is language processing delays. This is a developmental delay that happens and it hinders your ability to comprehend and sometimes speak language. It's usually due to trauma and other factors that have been known to contribute to this disorder. If they have a delay in their native language, then they're definitely going to have it in their second language. There's two different types of delays. There is expressive delay, when your ability to verbally express thoughts are hindered. So that's when students, you'll see them struggle to really get the words out. Um, and then you also have receptive delay, and that's when your ability to receive information, follow directions, and maintain attention are greatly hindered. So sometimes if you tell a student to do something, they look at you for a second, and then you see them respond to you. That's the delay. So I compare this to an iPhone. Can someone tell me what the latest iPhone model that we have? What's the latest iPhone? Can someone tell me? Anybody know? Is it like the iPhone 15 or something like that?
I think it's the iPhone 15 Pro, Pro 15 it's called.
Okay, so let's say, okay, thank you. So let's say our brains are the i15 Pro. Okay, so all of us have an i15 Pro as our brain. Okay, and the latest processor, I think it's the iOS 18. Okay, so we all have a processor, and it's the iOS. Someone with a delay, their iOS processor has not upgraded. Okay, so for instance, and I'm very transparent about this, I have a language processing delay. So my processor is still an iOS 10, and everyone else may have the iOS 18. So does my iPhone 15 still work? Yeah, absolutely. But what happens is that I have slower download speeds. Sometimes there's some buffering when I'm trying to express or comprehend language. And you're going to see that with your students sometimes. There could be a delay. And you're working with students in wartime who are developing, whose nervous systems and brains are developing under extreme adverse stress. So that's going to cause their processors to not upgrade as efficiently as someone growing up in peacetime America, or on the Isle of Malta, where there's minimal adversity and everything is going pretty even keel. So their processors are not going to upgrade or update or mature, if you will, the same way. So this is a very big obstacle your students may be having. And if that's the case, what you do is you just keep reinforcing the language. Eventually it clicks, but you just have to be consistent and reinforce that language. Moving on to the second obstacle, muscle memory. Okay, so we don't talk about this enough when it comes to language learning, but in order for us to speak, we have to use the muscles here in our cheeks, in our throat, in our larynx, and our diaphragm. Ukrainian uses a completely different set of facial muscles than English or Dutch or Arabic. So when they're learning English, where we use the lower half of our jaw and the lower half of our larynx, as opposed to Ukrainsky, where you're using the majority, you're using your full face when you speak Ukrainian, and you have to open up your throat completely in the back. You're limited in English. Your body has been trained to speak that and to use those muscles. So when you're learning English, your muscle memory will literally fight you because this is all it knows how to do. So if you've been using the same muscles over and over and over again in a certain way, and then you have to use it in a different way, your body's going to fight you. So when you see students have that stutter or that hesitation, their muscle memory is fighting them. And then the third obstacle is they struggle to surrender to a second language. Okay. So once again, this goes back to how our muscle memory fights us. Our brains fight us too. Okay. So when someone's being really stubborn about something, it's because their brain and all these neural pathways they spent years creating through habit, study, overcoming adversity, they have to create new neural pathways. Your brain's going to fight you on that. And so it's hard for them to surrender to a second language because in order to surrender, that means your brain has to let go of some of that control. And that's really hard. And you'll see that more with late teenagers to adult language learners to fully accept a new language. So now that we see these obstacles, we can understand why we need to wait so long to teach English for specific purposes. Okay, so strategies in teaching new vocabulary in ESP. So when it does come to teaching ESP, we can still use a lot of the strategies we're already using, like when we discuss like the simple topics, like families, cultures, our favorite foods. You can still use dialogues. You can still do games and like use Mentimeter and Kahoots if you're still using them. The challenge is having your students use the vocabulary on a regular basis. So we don't just use this in one session. You need to use multiple sessions in order to teach this and reinforce it. Yes, you need to have your vocabulary introductions, but they need to become such a normal part of the presentations at this point that the students internalize it and then begin to use it. So what I like to do is I like to do a lot of practical um, a lot of practical activities where we do something like for instance, in our activity today, we're going to build a moon base, and you will need to use the vocabulary that I give you in order to communicate with one another. Or if we're talking about, let's say, engineering, we're going to consistently use that vocabulary, not just gloss over the word bank and then just speak in general terms. We really reinforce. So as the teacher, you need to, if you find your student trying to move around using that word, get them to use it, interject it into the conversation so that they're consistently using it. So context, context, context for specific vocabulary. They need contextual understanding of their vocabulary. And we're going to see this in the NASA presentation that I have set up. But if I can bring your attention over here, so for levels B1 and B2, using podcasts, mind maps, scripted dialogues, this is perfect for B1, B2 because they still really depend on that visual representation of the vocabulary. And using scripted dialogues. I encourage scripted dialogues for these two levels because they're in the final processes of mastering and grasping the grammar and the more nuanced aspects of the English language. They're gaining independence and they're ready for more specific vocabulary. They actually want it at this point. But rarely are they ready to improvise. So if you feel like they could improvise a dialogue using very specific vocabulary, by all means, challenge them. But if you see them really struggling through it. We want them to be set up for success. So go back and using a scripted dialogue. But your more advanced students, C1, C2, we're obviously going to always stay within the domains of reading, listening, writing, and speaking. But now what we're going to do is we're going to do essay writing prompts. We're going to use improvised dialogues because they really need to be pushed at this level. And using AI prompts, that's going to be another activity we're going to use. I love using AI nowadays because in order for you to get what you want out of AI, you have to be very specific. You cannot speak in general terms. It won't know what to, you won't get what you want if you are vague. So this is really good using AI and using Chat GPT to really practice specific language because that's what AI needs. It's intelligent, but it still needs our help. Okay. So this is just a brief list of topics that we can teach in ESP. We got, like I said, the Space and NASA program. There's a lot of exciting things happening right now in our NASA program. We have the Artemis mission. We're going to launch in I believe either in November or January, and they're going to do an 8-day mission. It's going to be the final test flight before we take off and actually land back on the moon. We have our mission to Mars. We're still pushing forward and going to charge ahead and start setting up bases there. We have rockets, we have satellites. There's so much you can cover, and you have to use vocabulary that is only specific to the space and NASA program. Artificial intelligence. This was a gold mine for discussion and discovery with my more advanced students in Kremenchuk. And what we did was we decided to play with Chat GPT to see if it was politically biased or not. And that was a very interesting endeavor that we had. And we were comparing the servers. So we would type in the same question, me over here in the US, and then them over there in Ukraine to see what kind of answers we were getting. Computer programming and coding, STEAM, STEM, STEAM, eSTEAM, all of those. Botany, art and geometry, theology, robotics, you name it. And I even forgot to add business as well. Business is also very specific, and generally adults will engage in business English. Okay, so before I move on to the Artemis project, do I have any questions at this point?
I think Ata was asking about, wanted to ask something.
Okay.
Okay. Ata or someone else, do you guys have any questions about the presentation that you'd like to ask?
May I talk?
Yeah.
Thanks a lot, Lina and Rosemary, for this presentation. It's amazing. I would like to ask you if it's a good idea to talk. It's really incredible to talk about projects in the space, artificial intelligence, but I guess that even myself here in Spain, I have a lot of difficulties and trouble, or everyday trouble, everyday life. Is it a good idea to talk about emotions, feelings, in an attempt to digest the situation people are living in Ukraine? Or we should, okay.
Yeah, I encourage it. So I have a lot of resources on resilience building. So if you would like that, contact me on Telegram and I can share the daylights out of a lot of things. But the most important thing when it comes to talking about emotions, especially in context of a war, because we don't want our students to spiral, right? And we don't want to see like this juggernaut. We want to teach them how to structure. So one thing that I did is, and this is actually English for specific purposes, so this actually is right alongside of it. This is called, so you're familiar with Maslow's hierarchy of needs? Maslow's pyramid? Okay, so this is a great way to help them begin to discuss their feelings, but in a more structured way. And I just presented this at a forum in Kyiv, teaching about soft skills. And so what you do is you present you present the hierarchy of needs, right? And you teach them what each level represents. Then what you do is you have them fill out this inventory. So it's like, okay, do I have food? Yes, they fill that out. Clothing, water, any other basic needs, community, blah, 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 right? Housing. And they go up to safety. What do they have in place for safety? And then you have them take an inventory of that. So here we have bomb shelters, defenders. If they live in Kyiv or a metropolitan area, maybe they have a metro for their safety. Maybe they know first aid. Okay, they have fulfilled that need, right? And then love and belonging. They have family, school, community, church, perhaps. Esteem, any kind of awards or leadership roles they're taking on right now. Self-actualization for a teenager would be like, am I getting ready to go to university? Am I getting ready to take that next level? Then you have them go back and look at the needs that are not met and have them talk about like, okay, these are the needs I don't have met, but why are they not being met? And this will help them understand like, okay, maybe it's because of the war. Like we can't have the same opportunities we had when there was no war. And have them give feedback about this. And when I first did this is when the war first started with my students in Cherkasy, and they were like, I thought I was doing really bad, but now that I'm looking at what I have in my life, I'm actually okay. So a lot of students are like, oh, okay, take pulse, we're still good, But this is a great way to kind of crack open that egg. Okay? Because talking about feelings and emotions, it's a very vulnerable thing, even if we're just discussing psychology in general. So this is a very good way to look at the situation in black and white terms, because now what they're going to do is they're going to build that trust. And then eventually you'll be able to start talking about feelings. But always start with the practical black and white, and then eventually begin to talk about feelings. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, sure. Thanks a lot.
Any other questions before I move on?
There is no question.
Rosie, may I just make a little comment? Under strategies, you've mentioned B1, B2, C1, C2. In my experience, because we deal with children at different levels, and in that aspect, I find it very difficult with Ukrainian children. The biggest distinction to make, it's, English. Are they learning English as a second language, or are they learning English as a new language? Because in my opinion, it's quite, the two are quite distinct. So that if you take a student who is at a low level, when I say low, I mean
like
academic.
A1, A2.
Yeah. How can one apply that? For example, you've mentioned the topics like NASA, artificial intelligence, and so on. That poor child has no concept. Or the first question you will pop up was, excuse me, but what does NASA mean? Excuse me, but what does AI mean? It's because at that level they have no concept, so it's difficult to
Yes.
apply that rule. And
Yes. So
then also
like it.
at the same time, I've also found more advanced students who also struggle in the same way. But again, also some of the students who speak English, you even wonder, gosh, but you really speak good English. And the same goes with youngsters. So it's a dichotomy, both young and old. They seem to learn differently. Overall, I found the children very motivated. They would do their best. Yes, they do stutter. They do get stuck. But overall, I find it very motivating, very inspirational. That child, you have mentioned all the muscles. Yes, I agree with that.
Yeah, they
Um,
do. And it fights you. It fights. And if you have, more than one language, you've experienced it yourself. Like when I try to say Holupsi, like when I would first try to say it, I would like almost gag because my muscles were fighting me. We don't have that sound in English. We don't have the hook.
no,
So it
definitely.
takes training.
Definitely, like in South Africa, where I come from, English is
Hmm.
our main language or mother tongue, but we do have
Yeah.
regional other official language. If you take Sota, oh, Ngombe,
Yeah.
you know, I mean, it's a language. So you imagine the tongue twisting and the mouth muscling and so on, and you're living in the
Hmm.
same country. So I
Yeah.
guess it goes with any other. I mean, that's the essence of accents. If you're
Yes.
Italian, your accent is different. You're a Greek, your accent
Hmm.
is different. If you come from an English-speaking country, of course, your English differs from American or British, and so on. So that is my small contribution, just a comment.
Yeah, no, and I appreciate that. And like I said, I don't recommend teaching English for specific purposes to very beginner English because you're right. They're still grasping the language, and it is challenging even for B1, B2, even more advanced speakers, but at the same time, they also need that push. So that's where teaching this level of English is more appropriate for them. And adult learners, there's an acceptance that they just have to plunge themselves right into the language, otherwise, they're not going to have a job. So, they're more accepting of the situation, of what the challenges that they have to deal with. But yeah, like I said, I do not recommend this for A1, A2. With them, you do want to teach basic grammar, pronouns, gerunds, all those, and do it in the context of topics that they can really speak on, like family, culture, music, food, things that they know. These are for students who really have like a honed in specific reason for learning English, like business or engineering or something like that. Carla?
Yeah, I this Maslow's hierarchy of needs. I mean, that was an MBA thing for me, and I never thought of bringing it or that concept into the classroom. So thank you
Yeah.
very much
Hmm.
for that. Um, I one of my biggest struggles in uh, dealing with a classroom full of children at different levels, and no matter what their level is, there will be a few who are quite outspoken. Um,
Hmm.
the there's always that kid who's really ready to jump up and start
Yeah.
speaking. And then there's people, they don't have their camera on. They might have their parents' name in the
Hmm.
Zoom window, or they never say anything. And it's very, very hard to tell. So I'm curious what since I mean these kids aren't specialized yet. And
Hmm.
there's all kinds of philosophies as to whether children should ever become specialized. Or
Hmm.
maybe this is a cool subject, like everyone loves food, most love music. So
Right.
you can get away with music and
Hmm.
food and talking about bands and how does this old lady know my bands? But so I'm curious, how can we abstract away from specialized teaching to give the building blocks that will build their create more confidence and resilience to the point where they can say, yeah, I really want to go to space when I grow up. And when we talk about airlocks, please.
Right. So let's keep it simple, right? So an activity that I did, this was, I'll be honest, it was created out of desperation for figuring out what am I going to do for Christmas time because I had no idea. And I was tired of talking about normal Christmas stuff. I'm like, okay, it's like, it's the same subject every year, right? So what I did was, and this was for, I did this for all levels, A1 through C2, and we decided to imagine Christmas in space. Okay. So as you can see, I've like really been obsessed with this subject lately. I went down to Houston like for a vacation and now I can't get off of this. But what we did was we talked about Christmas in space. So I had them get on Canva and create their own idea of what they would see if there was Christmas in space. And guess what we talked about? Not only did we have specialized vocabulary, because you have to talk about, okay, well, we have to be careful of aliens and the atmosphere and space debris, right? But they also got to talk about what they knew. Okay. So that helped build that confidence. Then when it was time to talk about a bigger subject like Artemis, they'd already been introduced to it. So we talked about something that they know. They know Christmas. They know family. They know traditions. They know how much Ukraine means to them. They just put it on a different planet. And then what helped was my A1 speakers, they would say like, okay, I had a Christmas tree and we're going to have this, we're going to have that. I'll be with my family. And then I would ask them, so would traditions change? No, we keep our traditions. Okay, great. That's good. Okay. Then my more advanced students in that same class would go on to discuss the importance of traditions and how much their traditions mean to them. And we actually ended up having some really good conversations. And as you can see, they had very interesting ideas as to what Christmas in space would look like. But here we are introducing a very specific subject, right? But we're also applying what they knew. And so we ended up doing this for Easter also. And I did this with high school students. And they really had fun with it. They decided to rewrite the laws of physics and everything and really use their imaginations. Does that answer your question, Carla?
Very, very well.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's, I mean, I've raised two children, and this really jives with what I know. But, more in the classroom than at home. But this is very, very, lots of great ideas here. Thank you.
Good. Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome. So when it comes to like your A1, A2 students, no, you're not going to be talking about like radiation poisoning and, main engine cut off and all these like, high level words, but this is how you introduce it. Then when they jump levels, then you go, hey, remember when you did this activity? Now we're going to build off of it. Okay. Any other questions before I move on?
As long as they have shared either on the moon or on the space, and the same they have in South Africa. I mean, on the on land, and that will be the same whether it's in space or anywhere. And that's the beauty of learning about two things at the same time.
Yeah, absolutely. So in this presentation, I was talking about our Artemis mission, which is supposed to take off, no pun intended, in November of this year, worst case scenario, January of next year. So as you can see here, I have my target vocabulary. So we have Artemis and I have the definitions Apollo, crewed flight, Global Alliance, NASA. Okay, so we're defining that. Orion, test flight, test pilot, sustainable and unmanned flight or mission. Okay, so as you can see, the vocabulary, it's very targeted. We're not going to use this in the context of anything else. So here, what I did was I also have like a lot of idioms and expressions that the students could use. So I make sure I highlight those in my presentation and I draw their attention to those phrases. So let's say you're my students and I'm talking about why are we going back to the moon? Well, we are not done learning about the moon. That's why NASA plans on expanding our missions to Mars is we need a midway base for refueling, restocking, and maintenance. And we're ready to explore deep space. We're taking everything we learned from the Apollo missions from 1961 to 72, and we're going to put it to work. Put it to work means we're going to apply. So not only are they learning about a new mission, but they're also learning what some of these idioms and expressions that we use in English, we're going to tell them what that means too. Okay. Let's see. No. So here, I have targeted vocabulary highlighted in pink. As you can see, I also have some other expressions like amp up, okay? Space race, which was something I forgot to put in my targeted vocabulary, and an expression like playing in our backyard, okay? These are expressions that when the students learn how to use it in context, they start to sound like a more native, fluent speaker as opposed to a student who learned English out of a textbook. And then finally over here in highlighted in pink, I have a crewed flight. And I'll zoom that in so you can see that a little bit better. Okay, so if we go through here a little bit more. Okay, so what is this mission? So as you can see, once again, I have targeted vocabulary highlighted. So you always want to bring everything back to what you introduced in the beginning of the lesson. Always bring it back to that targeted vocabulary. Interrupt the presentation. Ask the students, do you remember what sustainable means? Do you remember what who Apollo is? Do you remember, what is Global Alliance? And even have them use context clues. Okay, once again, we talked about how this is all about using context. So if we say this is a global alliance of over 20 countries, right there, the sentence is telling you a global alliance is multiple countries working together. So you can ask them these thought-provoking questions too. Okay. And then finally, we have like one more expression highlighted, deal with. Okay, that's a very common expression used in English that English speakers use. Okay. So, let's see. I'm not sure how much time we'll have to do the moon base activity, but what I want to do is direct your attention to my Padlet. So, let's see. I may have to stop share for a second. So as I'm getting the Padlet ready, does anybody have any questions about that presentation? Does that make sense on how to introduce targeted vocabulary and then incorporate it into your presentations? Yes, no?
I have no questions.
Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to use specific vocabulary. So in the chat, I'm going to share the Padlet link. You should be able to get in. Okay. So here you see two examples of using very specific language. Now, the purpose of this activity is for you to practice using specific language, okay? It's not enough to just learn all this vocabulary and then not use it correctly, or to just not use it, okay? So here you see two pictures that I've created: black holes spiraling down and quasar exploding into bright colors. So what I challenge you to do is go over here to the plus sign, and you're going to go over where it says plus 12 and come over to I can't draw. And then you're going to write what you want to draw. So what I want you to do is you can use this with space engineering, and create your own picture using some kind of specific language. So you can talk about a moon base on a crater, or a Mars rover driving, or something like that. And when you are done, post it, and then post the words that you used on the thing, and we'll see what y'all came up with.
Rosie, did you share the website in the group chat, or
I did. Do I need to reshare it?
maybe I just can't see it?
Here, I'll share it again.
Sorry, I have a question. Did you send a link already to the chat?
I thought I did. Oh, I just sent it to Peter. Oops, I'm sorry.
I
Yeah,
was looking and I
No, that's my
Yeah.
fault. I'm sorry. Okay, now
okay,
try it.
thank you. Okay, thank
You're
you.
welcome.
Oh, yeah, now we see it. Yeah, because it's just this small window. It shows like sometimes just one person, and then you need to switch it to meeting group chat. Yeah.
Yeah, that was my fault. I apologize. Thank you for bringing that to my attention. So yeah, so think words like galaxies. There's the Andromeda Galaxy, Milky Way, moon exploration, space, deep space.
Oh, I love Padlet. It's so cool.
It is.
We're just making a new card based
Mm-hmm.
on okay.
Yeah, so if you come over here, click on it, and then you want to go over here to the plus 12, and then go to I can't draw. And then here you want to type in whatever it is you want to draw. So you could write like deep space exploration with astronauts.
What was the first thing that you clicked? I think that was
This, do you see the plus sign down here?
oh, the plus sign.
Mm-hmm.
How do you get
Ooh,
to make a picture? I'm still.
Go to, that's okay, that's okay. Let's see, hold on, keep working, publish. So go here and then click on the plus 12, and then see this I can't draw.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Click on that. and then it'll say write what you want to draw.
Mm-hmm. Oh.
Okay, a bit of my country, good. And so this is a good assessment too. It's a fun assessment because A, the students are going to have fun with the art and you're going to see some interesting things that AI will create. But at the same time, for you as the volunteer, this will help you see if they understand A, the instructions, and two, are they using the language in a way that the computer can understand? And so if you're getting something pretty accurate, like, oh, space is quiet and safe. I like that. So if their picture is conveying what they have written, you as a volunteer and the teacher can look and go, okay, my student is starting to command the language a little bit stronger now. What else do we got? Ooh. I'm assuming this is a supernova.
Yeah,
That's cool.
so pretty.
It is, yes.
This is fun.
And so as everyone is getting their Padlets ready, another fun activity for exploring specific vocabulary, and this is a good way to throw the responsibility of learning back onto your students, is a scavenger hunt. So you create a list of words. Oh, this is pretty. You create a list of words that you want to teach for that session, and you post it, you share it, and then you have the students independently look up those words and then come back after, let's say, like 5 minutes of them looking up the words. And then you have them discuss what they have found. An activity that I did for St. Andrew's Day for Scotland. Scotland's the land of my ancestors. And what I did was I had them do a scavenger hunt. So they had a list of questions that I posted, and they had to go find those answers for themselves. And then we came back and discussed all those answers. So that is another way to teach English, English for specific purposes, is to have them go out and find the answers for themselves, then come back and create and discuss what they have found. And then you as the volunteer, you can facilitate either correcting and redirecting or continuing that discussion.
We've got pretty cool collection.
We do, we do.
A lot to like.
So I like how everyone is using the language and adding their own personal touch to it. I cannot draw. Neither can I. This is why I love AI. This is why I love AI art. All right, we'll give it a couple more minutes and then we will attempt to do this final interactive activity, and it's going to require you all to participate. Ooh, this looks like Stargate. Very neat. All right. Wonderful job, everyone. So you're getting the hang of it, right? So like I said, with AI, this is not only just flat out fun, but it's also a great assessment tool to see if the students are understanding how to use the vocabulary that you've introduced. And if the drawings are coming out, I would say, you know, between 80 to 100% accurate, they've got a pretty good command of the vocabulary and they understand what it means. If it's way off, then that's when you can go back and go, okay, we need to make some corrections. So it's actually a pretty, it's a fun assessment if you ask me. Okay, so moving on. We are going to build a moon base. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to share the link of the activity and vocabulary that you will want to use. I'm going to send that to you first. And then you're going to be using Canva to create this moon base, but you have to communicate with each other in order to make this happen. Oops. Copy. Okay, so these are just the directions. Okay, awesome. So the campaign overview is that you need to research the vocabulary words if you do not know them already. You want to use the vocabulary in a dialogue. So I'm doing this activity under the assumption that you have a fairly strong command of the English language. And the grammar, I want you to think about the questions over here about how to place this base and what you need to do to protect your moon base. So think about what materials will you need? What cosmic issues are you going to be facing? Like space debris, radiation poisoning, perhaps Martians, who knows? Do you plan on having any quote unquote visitors drop by? Think about food, oxygen, storage, and then add any other details that you need. So we have some roles. So you may want to decide who's going to be captain, lieutenant, a pilot, rover driver, botanist, microbiologist. Those are just some roles. And if we look at our vocabulary, dock, okay, like when we dock our ship to the base, generator, hydroponics, radiation poisoning, main engine cutoff, Mako, solar panels, debris, mission control, Houston. Okay, so anytime they get called to Houston, the space station, they always say Houston. And even words like sustainable, other words, solar winds, atmosphere, cosmic dust, International Space Station, observatory, satellite, and penumbra. And that may be the word you'll have to look up. It's actually a very interesting word. Okay. So if you are unfamiliar with using Canva, when you want to set things up, you want to come over after everything decides loads. You want to come over here to elements. And this is where you will find all your graphics. So you can type in like moon base. Okay, actually spell it correctly.
Rosie, are you sharing
Yeah.
the screen of this file? Because we still see the Padlet.
Oh, you still see the palette? Oops, okay. Hold
Yeah.
on. I thought you could automatically do that. Let me reshare. I'm sorry about that. Okay. Okay, can you see it now?
It's yes, now we can see it.
Okay. All right, now can you see the picture of the moon and the new picture? Okay, perfect, perfect. Okay, so when you start doing this, and I'll share the link in just a few seconds, everyone has permission to edit. But like I said, you want to communicate with one another, but when you put the graphics in, you want to come over here to elements and then type in whatever it is you want to put there, moon base, or let's say you want to do hydroponic, hydroponic. Okay. So just be very specific with the words that you want to use, and then you'll put them here. Okay. So I'm going to put this in here. So let's make sure we decide what the roles are. I want everyone's microphones turned on because you have to communicate with one another now. And we have to discuss how are we going to make this moon base happen.
So, like, we have to choose a role and then start speaking with that role, or it's okay?
Yep.
Okay, okay. Okay, thank you.
Yes, you're welcome.
Okay, so we have like 15, now 16 people, or
Okay.
so how do we split the roles?
So who wants to be the captain? Who wants to be the main person of the mission?
Anyone?
I'll be Houston.
Okay, so you'll be mission control. Okay.
Mission control and until liftoff.
Okay.
Ah. So, Houston, are we on the moon already, or are we getting ready to leave? Where are we?
No, we're still waiting for liftoff.
Ah, okay. So we should really pack a lot of things that we need, especially shielding against both radiation and space debris. And the botanist, I don't know,
I can be botanist.
You want to be botanist? Okay.
So we have a subject matter expert here who will know how to set up all the hydroponic stuff and know what we need to bring, because I trust your knowledge.
And then we'll need someone to drive the rover when we get up there.
Me. I will do it.
You'll be the one. Okay, thank you, Dinya.
Yes.
Excellent. And we'll need a pilot for our...
Yes, who's our pilot? Who's our... Peter, do you want to be the pilot?
Yeah, someone who won't dent the ship.
Yeah. Someone who can easily dock to the ISS, right?
Carefully.
Yes. Okay, so Houston, let's prepare for liftoff.
Where's our captain?
Where's our captain?
Here we are. Are we ready?
Okay. Yep.
All departments reporting in.
Are we all ready?
All right, Houston.
Yeah, we're ready.
This is Houston control room mission to start July 29, 2024, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And we have liftoff.
Here we go, yes.
And a perfect...
Yay!
Oh!
Clap everybody.
Yes, and we can see it lift up. Oh, it's a perfect send off. I can see the rocket. It's going higher and higher and higher. Now it's diverting. It's taking a different route and going straight, but at the same time, it's uploading higher and higher into space until we can barely see it. And now the rocket is on its way to the moon.
All
Yes, it
systems
has
appear.
exited the atmosphere and now entering
Yes,
space.
yes. Captain, give us what do you see? How do you feel in the space?
I feel safe, and I also see that all systems are nominal.
Do you still see the Earth?
I can see both the Earth and the moon, and we are
Oh.
approaching orbital insertion for the moon.
Oh, okay. So is it dark out there, or is it day, or what do you see on the Earth? Is it a night, day, or?
On the Earth, we see that the sun is slightly in the northern sky.
Okay.
Southern sky relating southern sky, and the we can see the Earth slowly turning as night falls on the west coast of Europe.
I can see Ukraine.
Yay!
Yay!
Wave.
I can. Oh yeah, Kiev.
Yes, I also see the Kiev.
Yes.
And even from space, it looks so beautiful, especially at night.
Great.
All those lights, 44 million people.
And Captain, do you feel any atmospheric pressure? Do you feel any void? Do you feel that the further you go, the more you are you feeling balance, or do you feel there is you are lighter or heavier in space? How do you feel once you're in space?
If my people are good, I'm good. But space always feels safe and comfortable. I'm used to it.
This is like your 8th mission, right?
Yeah, I like being on the road.
Okay.
The cosmic road.
Okay. Star Trek. Okay.
Star Trek.
Prepare for standard orbit.
All right.
Mission complete. Clap, everybody.
Oh,
Yay!
we're coming near. Prepare for landing. Modular. Be ready. Are you ready?
We are
This
ready.
is mission control. Please descend.
Approaching
Ready for
insertion
descending onto the surface of the moon. Ready to take that one small step, one giant leap for mankind.
There we go.
And just a fun fact about this Artemis mission, when we do land on the moon, the first woman will be taking a step on the moon.
Indeed.
So it'll be a very historic endeavor, but that one, Artemis 3, won't happen until I believe 2026, 2027.
Indeed. And we're approaching touchdown.
Yes.
All systems are green. There's a slight variation in the static couplings, but we're compensating.
Okay, Captain, prepare for descent, for touchdown.
Prepare to dock.
Prepare to dock.
And 100 meters. 50, 40, 30, firing retros, 20, 10, 5, main engine cut off, and we're down.
All right, now we need to start setting up the actual base and take a look at the geography. Where would be the optimal location for this moon base?
Oh, I'm looking out the portal and I see an area of shade up against this mountain. The geology appears stable. We could place our shielding there and get away with only half shielding, because during the lunar day it will be shaded from and protected from radiation.
Okay.
I recommend we get started there.
I agree. So put it about here.
Excellent.
All right. Okay. Alina, where do you suggest we put the hydroponics?
Good question. So somewhere nearby. I don't know, like next to it.
Next here? Okay.
Yeah, next to the station.
Okay.
Maybe let me find the picture. Like here, maybe.
Like right there. Okay. And then what we'll do is we'll put a shield over it to protect it from any kind of radiation poisoning or solar winds. Okay. And then what we need is to set up oxygen tanks and generators. Where would the best place for these be? Captain, what do you suggest?
I recommend on the leeward side of
Okay.
the mountains, also to prevent them from heating up too much.
Okay.
And microbiologists, the radiation levels, how are they?
Right now they are minimal.
Brilliant.
So
okay, I'm
what's
sending a status report to Houston.
Okay.
There's a lag there. Houston, we have no problems.
All right. And for those of you just joining us right now, we are applying using English for specific purposes, and we're doing an improvised dialogue. And our mission is to work together and communicate and set up a moon base together. So we have our food, we have our shelter, we have our generators. Last thing we need to do is set up our oxygen tanks.
Yes. And
Robert, you still need to set Robert.
yes, and
copy that.
And Captain needs to go off shift. However, Rosemary, you have the comm.
Okay. Thank you. And we'll set that right next to our generators.
And thank you, everyone.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Rosemary, for setting this up.
You're welcome, Carla. Okay. So as you can see, what we did was we just set up a fantastic moon base using that language. And it feels awkward at first because we're not used to using this type of language. But as you can tell, we had fun. We worked together, we figured out how to use the language, and we built a moon base, you know? So this is something that you can do with your students. And as the teacher, as the, volunteer, you will need to participate with them to help them because students are shy, they're worried about like, oh, what are they gonna think? And, they've got all the teenage things going on inside of their brains. But once you get them into it, then they'll really start to be more enthusiastic. And I stress, do not underestimate your students. Sometimes there's been a couple times where I thought like, man, my kids are not gonna go for this. And a side of them that I never thought possible came out, and it was a beautiful side of them. So never underestimate what your students may be enthusiastic for versus what they may not be. You're never going to know unless you try. And what I love about our students in Ukraine is that they'll tell you, that they'll tell you if it's not interesting or not. And so that's really good, actually, because then there's no mystery behind it or anything like that. But what did you all think of the activity?
Oh, it's really fun. Even
Yeah,
for us as an adults, yeah, it's like kind of
yeah,
fun to work as a team and create something
yeah.
together. And for students especially, right? So it's like involves so
Right.
many aspects, like communication,
Hmm.
and it's also creativity, like working together. I think it's amazing.
Yeah. And
Mhm.
remember, as adults, we need to play. Okay. For some reason, something happens to us in our teenage years and we forget, we stop playing
Mhm.
and we grow up. Okay. And so as a teacher, as an adult, we want to remember to play. Okay? Play with your students. Play with it. Have fun. Be silly. One of the best speaking club sessions I ever had was we listened to a song by Shakira from Zootopia, and that conversation turned into an hour-long discussion about what My Little Pony we would be. But we started talking about cartoons, and then the teachers, we started reminiscing about the cartoons. They were remembering like the Cossacks, and I forget the name of the kid. Alina, help me out. It's Petroshenko or something like that. It's like this little redheaded kindergarten kid from the Soviet time. But like we were remembering, do you know who I'm talking about?
Not
No? Okay,
sure.
I'll have to try to find them and I'll send it to you. But like we were reminiscing about like, these old cartoons that made us laugh, and we were all the students and the teachers, we were laughing so hard we were crying. But it's like, but it was such a great time. So it goes back to, don't underestimate your students because they will have fun. They will surprise you. Let them surprise you, but also don't be afraid to play. As
Mhm.
teachers, we get the opportunity to play, even when it comes to teaching something as serious as English for specific purposes. This is actually very fun. Even if you teach business English, let's say you want to talk to students about social media marketing, which our kids, they are very savvy with social media.
Mhm.
You can have fun and create scenarios with that and really just get into it. And when they see you play and be lighthearted, they're going to play in return. That is actually how we build trust with our babies when they're young. That's how you build trust with an animal. You play with it. It's the same thing even with our older and more advanced students. Last night with my speaking club for refugees, and they're all from like the Dnipro region, they just got over here. We played alibis, so they had to come up with alibis for all these different scenarios. Like, there was like a crime spree, there was a carjacking, and they had to come up with alibis saying, like, no, I wasn't there. And they got into it. One of my members of that club, she's a soldier, okay, Ukrainian soldier, and she did like intel, like she was hardcore. And she got into it. Her language exploded, but it's because we played. It's
Mhm.
because we play. And that's a part of what makes this so much fun is that you get to do that. Daniel, you've had your hand up. Thank you for your patience. How can I help? Daniel?
Daniel?
Well, yes. Well, I have a question is, well, like these kind of activities are only for B1, B2 students, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or is good for A1, A2 students?
You can adapt it, you just will not use the same vocabulary. So if you're going to do this with A1, A2 students, you can talk about building a moon base. Like you're going to need house, food, clothes, oxygen. Okay. You just have to find a more simplified vocabulary for it. They're not going to talk about, you know, what you call it. They're not going to say things like main engine cutoff or, you know, descending, you know, they're going to say touchdown, lift off. But either way, that gets them, you know, into the groove of using that kind of language.
But could be anything, right? Well,
Like-
maybe like building
Yeah.
it or like setting
Yeah, you guys,
or whatever.
yeah, like build a house, or building a aquarium or something like that. You know, you can
Yeah,
simplify it.
like those kind of activities, but with easier words, right?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Like it could be adapted to any topic, to any level,
Mhm. Yes.
based on the student's level. And,
Yeah,
Mhm.
it seems really interesting. I have never tried like any activity like this. So yeah, I think it's cool. It's
Yeah,
different.
good. Yeah, and Canva is a godsend. It is a savior. I love it. And the students, because they're so savvy, a lot of them already know how to use this. I would say if you're using like teaching really young students like ages 8 through 10, I would be the one controlling the Canva. I would not give them the link, just because they may not have developed proficiency. But ages 12 through 18, they'll know how to use Canva, or you can easily teach them.
Yes, and I have another question. Is at the beginning of the talk, I was like on a class at my university, so I cannot like put all my attention. And you said something about like speaking Ukrainian and English and the way they speak, like how do they move the mouth and all those things. I didn't understand that at all. So if you could like
Okay,
clarify me that
so
situation, it would be great.
yeah. So in order to speak a language, we forget we have to use muscles in our face. Okay. And so this is something that I learned in ballroom dance, is that we have muscle memory. Okay, so our body, you know, our muscles remember how to do certain things like writing, lifting, and everything, right? So our facial muscles, we use specific muscles for specific languages. Okay, what is your native language? Is it English or Spanish?
Spanish.
Spanish, okay. So, cuando hablo español, pone tus manos en la cara, y cuando tú hablas, you will feel that you're using the upper muscles. Pero cuando habla inglés, you're going to feel that you're going to use the bottom half of your jaw. And if you put your hand down here and you say like hello, you're going to feel the vibration here, down here in your chest, because English is a guttural language. But if you say hola, you're going to feel the vibration up here. Okay. So we have to use specific parts. That's what gives each language its specific tone, accent, and nuance. So when they've been speaking Ukrainian, okay, so the Ukrainsky, everything, like you use your entire face, okay, and you have to open up the back of your throat when you're speaking Ukrainian, right? In English, we're contracting it. So that's why their accent, when they speak English, it sounds very open, because that's how they've been speaking Ukrainian. So their muscles are literally going to fight them when they're trying to speak English, because you have to use a completely different set of muscles in your face, in your throat, your larynx, your diaphragm, and everything. And it happens with every language. That's what makes each language unique. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yes, yes. Thank you very much. I didn't know that information, so it's great for me to know it. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, it's something that we don't think about. And I wouldn't have thought about it if I wasn't a dancer. So when I was
Yeah.
teaching ballroom dance, I was teaching English. And so teaching English made me a better ballroom dance teacher, and teaching ballroom dance made me a better English teacher. But it makes you think about these things.
It's a great
Yeah, I have never
intersection.
thought about that. And
Yeah.
yeah, it's interesting. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Uh-huh. Yeah, you're welcome. Any other questions? No?
No, I think we can wrap up and then
Yeah.
For
yeah,
me,
maybe
it's okay.
Okay.
wrap up and then continue in the chat. Maybe you can send some of the resources you mentioned, or maybe like presentation that you shared with us. So
Yeah.
maybe
Yeah, actually what I'm going to do, because my computer is about to die, I am going to send that all in the Telegram chat,
Yeah.
okay,
sure.
for everyone to have access to. So basically what we talked about was teaching English for specific purposes. As you can see, it doesn't have to be boring and overly academic. It can actually be a lot of fun. So we learned this by doing Padlet. We also learned this by doing an actual moon mission where we had to use improvised dialogue. Okay. And that's really challenging. You know, even as all of us who have a strong command of English, it's really hard to come up with that on the spot, but it's also a lot of fun and it helps you embrace play. We also talked about how we have different obstacles to language learning, like processing delays. It's a very real thing, and it's a very hard thing for teachers to catch because students become very good at compensating. Okay. So when people talk to me, they can't see the delay because I've learned to compensate with charisma and charm. But if you really get to know me and talk to me, you'll notice that sometimes if I'm under a lot of stress, the greater the delay and the slower the download speeds. It happens. So you may see that in your students, and that's just meant to help you have a little more patience with them, and then also continue to really reinforce the language. So if you have a processing delay, or if your students do, they can learn. It just takes more time. And then we also talked about why teaching English for specific purposes is so vitally important. Our students understand they have a very competitive world, so they really do want to stay ahead of the curve. And by doing that, we can give them that heads up by teaching them these crucial vocabulary skills and then applying it in real world circumstances that are practical to our students. So thank you very much, everyone. You were a lot of fun today. This was really fun, and I can't wait to do the next training session.
Amazing. Thank you so much. It was very interesting and I think applicable, right? The knowledge we use with our students like right away. Really it is. Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and amazing presentation. Yes, and thank you, the participants, for joining, for your questions.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
Thank you, Rosemary, and all the
You-
participants.
Looking forward to our future workshops. Thank you. Everyone,
Yes, yes, absolutely.
and
Yes.
wish you a lovely day. And take care of yourself.
Thank you. You too. And I will see you next time. Take care, y'all.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.